I'm very pleased to welcome today our wonderful range of panelists who are going to speak about sectors as wide-ranging as health and education and fintech and digital. These are hopefully the new rising and emerging stars of the communication world. COVID has totally upset the order of how PR firms are supposed to be, and it's the mid-sized firms and the specialist firms which could be the next emerging stars. So, with that, let's kick off the introductions. First up is Nikki Gupta, who's the co-founder of Teamwork Communications, a healthcare specialist firm. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you, Parul. Thank you.
Then we have Regal Ranjan, who is Vice President of Value 360. Value 360 is, of course, a very well-known startup PR firm, but it's now, of course, much more than that. Regal also specializes in education and edutech sector. Welcome, Regal.
Thank you, Parul, for the introduction.
We have Hemant with us. Hemant, again, is a person who's well-known face in the PR community. I don't really need to introduce him. He's also the co-founder of Veritas Reputation PR Private Limited, and very much a specialist in finance, BSFI, and fintech. Welcome, Hemant.
Thank you, Parul. Thank you.
And of course, last but not the least, we have Shabir Hussain with us, who is the co-founder of Hats Off Digital. And of course, he's actually the heart of what is happening now. It's we've gone digital with a vengeance. Some of us kicking and screaming, no doubt, into the future. So Shabir is really going to talk about not just digital, but influencer management, something he feels very strongly about, and how that will play out for brands. So I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to this very special discussion on PR Moment podcast. I wanted to take a mid-sized view and a specialist view, and not have a conversation which is all over the place. To start off with what are probably the sunrise sectors of tomorrow, and why tomorrow it's today. So first up, Nikki, could you briefly recap for us, what is really happening with the healthcare sector, and how nervous are you about the fact that everybody is rushing to suddenly start a healthcare practice?
Thanks for Parul for having me here, and happy to share the panel. Your question is about that everybody is running towards that. We all know the world is battling with healthcare crisis, and being into healthcare communication, this scenario has brought never before challenges and opportunities for the entire communication industry. But being into healthcare communication, it's been 10 years that Teamwork has legacy, I would say, and me and my partner Kamal, we both started our career as a healthcare journalist. So we know the nuances of PR. Of course, if other people are running towards that, so you need really neck for that. But I'm at the same time, I'm really happy. We have seen one very good positive change in the COVID-19. This sector has brought respect for doctors. Earlier, there used to be a trust deficit. The biggest challenge in healthcare sector which we are facing right now, and which will be for all the communication firms which are handling healthcare clients, is a crisis communication. And having 90% of client in healthcare, we have been trained what we are doing right now. So I would say only the intensity for Teamwork for us, it has changed and it has increased, but we are doing the similar work what we were doing it earlier. It's just that we all are working from our homes, we are coordinating, but certainly this sector has full of challenges. If it has a lot of opportunities as well.
I think that's very interesting what you said, because doctors we all have a love-hate relationship with the doctors. We need them, but this narrative has always been that they're ordering unnecessary tests, especially in the private hospitals. So perhaps I don't know whether I can trust my doctor. So this will throw up new nuances in patient client care and patient empowerment. Moving on to Regal, another education is another sector where perhaps not much as much as healthcare. But there is the transformation that is happening in education is so complete at the moment that definitely the sector is ripe for opportunities for communicators. What has been your experience in the last 60 days?
Yeah, so definitely education sector is under the highlight, and I would say that starting from 2019, towards the end of 2019, to give you a complete picture. I attended a few annual planning meetings of our EdTech clients, and what they were saying that 2020 will be the year of EdTech, not only in terms of investment, but they said that it's also in terms of the scale. So at that point in time, being a 7 trillion industry, definitely this was undoubtedly a bright spot for investors. But little did we all know that this sector would literally explode in 2020, and with COVID, unprecedented events during COVID, and schools and educational institutes, getting shut during that time, it has put education and technology, especially edtech, in the spotlight like never before. And today it has definitely become a mainstream. India's second most valued startup, which is now a unicorn, is from an edtech space, which is Baiju. And this edtech has witnessed a 150% growth since March, which is, I would say that it's phenomenal. And there are many trends which are emerging in the last few months, especially getting the education anywhere, anytime. So now we don't have really to go to school or to be a part of a classroom. We can have education on a phone, and it can be accessed anytime. Apart from that, we've also seen that personalized learning is another trend which has come up, and which is again giving the whole thing a push. So students are not only getting online classes from their teachers, but they're also solving queries through chats. They are also getting assignments on WhatsApp, and even there are informative brief videos which are there, and content has become more and more personalized. Not only that, there are certain other things which has come into play, and that is AI, AR, or even the use of VR in making children understand a specific subject. For example, a virtual tour of a VR of through VR of a museum will definitely give a better recall to students than in just a normal book reading. And again, reskilling and upskilling for working professionals have also come in the forefront. So I would say that the story is sunnier when we talk about edtech or education as a sector in the country, and brands are poised for growth during the COVID, and even post COVID as well.
That's really a good snapshot of what we can expect going forward, especially the anytime, anywhere education and personalized education. These are trends I hope to talk about more later in the program. Over to you, Hemant. Of course, I mean, what's happening with the finance sector is so massive. It really defies. I mean, there was one massive push to digital finance with demonetization, and now you have another sort of kicking the whole system forward. With, of course, there are so many problems about bad assets and loan recovery, and how banks are not lending a lot at the moment. The whole system demand is suppressed. Given all these situations, what do you see as the main flashpoints for communicators in this space?
Yeah, so I will talk from the public relations PR point of view. Although there have been a lot of bad assets, but a lot of these large, from the PR side, on one side we have these large institutions, large banks, mutual funds, insurance companies, who are very stable. I mean, despite what happens in the sector, banks, for example, there would be NPS, but they are fairly stable from the PR point of view. They will continue, and they will. All the PR activities will keep on happening. So that is very stable. Then we have a second set of mid-sized companies like NBFCs are there. There are some fintech companies. There are some small brokerages. They faced a lot of issues during this pandemic. So while the large ones are stable, the mid-sized ones, they face some issues. But there were others who came up with additional issues and crisis-related communication. Towards the beginning of this lockdown, beginning April, one of our wealth management clients, the CEO called me to say that he wanted to increase his overall budget for PR, and he wanted to add digital. So I was surprised. I asked him, "Okay, why do you want to increase your activities during a lockdown?" So he said that all the decision makers are sitting at home and they are reading news. They are reading e-papers. They are reading news online. So it is a right time. They are chasing their target is HNIs, since it's a well-developed firm. When all the HNIs are reading all news online, so impact of the PR activities will be much higher. So that in short gives the trend. We also got some issues and crisis related projects towards the beginning of this lockdown. We won the Indian Bank PR account. So overall, finance has been a little bit. It's stable for public relations. It has done much better. So there is a downturn, but there is a limited downturn.
I think that's very important. Of course, BSFI and finance has always been one of the mainstays of PR. It's been one of those pillars, evergreen pillars. But it's good to know that the kind of stuff. And talking about digital is, I think, the right time to take the conversation over to Shabir now. And
Yes.
Shabir, there's digital. When you say digital, it's so wide. So, what are the one or two things that you have noticed in terms of brands and how they've changed their approach? Hemant has already given
Oh,
us a hint. They are,
right, right, right.
increasing their
So,
spend.
yep. So, like he said, that PR is something that everybody is looking for right now. Apart from that, the easiest way to connect with anybody on digital is social platforms. So, website is more like an address that you have online for people to connect with you. So, if you're talking to me right now, Hats Off. There's a website of Hats Off, which is an address, a virtual address that I have, where you can anytime go and figure out what we do. But apart from that, everybody right now wants to be on digital, on social media specifically, because social media is where you every day communicate with your audiences about your own, all your happenings that you're doing with for your brand or in terms of service that you provide to the clients. So the one-on-one or the everyday basis communication that you're trying to do with your customers or your clients or your B2B clients is through social media, and that's the primary way of approach that everybody is looking at during this lockdown. And what we figured out during these 2.5, 3 months of lockdown is that more than bigger brands looking for an approach on social media, it's the mid-size and the small local brands who want to come up on digital now, because they are looking at digital services more prominently because they have nothing else to market. Bigger brands already have a base on digital because they have been doing it, because they were much more aware about it in the past of how digital marketing works. But local brands or local or mid-sized brand would always take it lightly that, okay, digital is a new form of medium to market. Let's see, we'll do it in the future. Let's see, we'll do it sometime in the future. But that never happened. And when they had to face a situation like a lockdown, a pandemic, they realized that it's high time that they have to get on digital. So the two basic requirements that everybody is coming up with right now is a website creation, that they need a basic address on social or on digital, and a social media marketing approach, a basic marketing approach where they can pitch out their services. So majorly people are looking at focusing more on pitching out their services. So product based brands are not wanting to be on digital right now because they would not want to invest on it, because they know they can't deliver it during this time unless everything is functional. So it's more about the service brands that want to get onto digital and focus on marketing now.
Thank you, Shabir, for explaining that. That's actually, this is a true deepening of adoption of digital. When the mid-size and the smaller firms start saying that we want to spend, that's a true deepening
Right,
of
right, right.
technology and a way of looking at things. Recently, there was a story that Bajaj Mutual Insurance has shifted the entire almost 25% of their customer addressal system is now on WhatsApp. So
Okay.
these are the kind of major changes that
Right.
you're
Everybody
saying.
has adopted. So I think WhatsApp marketing or WhatsApp a way of approaching. So WhatsApp bot is working a lot now. So the automated communication through WhatsApp has helped a lot to any sort of brands. If you talk about, I think finance companies are adapting this a lot because they love this concept where they don't have to send in text messages, because not everybody is up for reading a text message. I would have had some 20, 30 text messages which are unread right now because I'll not go and check them. So WhatsApp is the easiest medium where you would want to push your notifications to the audiences, and it even becomes easier for the customer or the user to figure out things quicker and take actions on it.
Thank you, Shabir. So I have two, three broad questions which I'm going to throw out, and the panel can take it in any order they like. Firstly, when it comes to healthcare communication, so much of it is science and technical communication. So, which requires the journalists or the person who are eventually conveying the story to have an understanding of things like, a vaccine cannot really happen overnight. So, what are the challenges that are being faced, to educate the storyteller, so to speak? And about the education sector, my question is that what role can communication play in building trust between parents and the new way of teaching? Because from what I see on Facebook groups of mothers and other parent groups, a lot of distrust with the system and complaints that, why is the school still charging us at an offline level? So those kind of issues, I'd like to talk about that a little bit more. And about the finance sector, I'd love to know what's happening in fintech, and what kind of deepening of financial literacy would we see with this? So, in no particular order, I request the panel to take up these questions. So, Nikki, would you like to go first?
Yeah, certainly. So if I talk about, because you put everything together, Parul, if you don't mind, can you please repeat healthcare point once again?
Yes. Sorry. I just was keen to know that, since healthcare communication is very technical, it requires a lot of understanding on the part of the journalist and storyteller to understand what the nuances of science communication or the scientific developments. A lot of the healthcare communication currently is scientific. So, is the vaccine happening? Not happening? Is hydrochloroquine? Should I take it? Not take it? So in the and the journalists who would normally not cover healthcare are also coming into this, because right now it's all hands on the deck. So what is the role of the communicator to educate the storytellers?
Very well said, Parul. If I talk about these things, what you just said, what happens usually, anything new comes, nobody was aware about COVID. Still, people are not aware what to do, where to do, how to do things. When the GSTN come, that time also people were not aware, right? I'm merging two different topics, but I'm telling you two different new scenarios where the people, media, even the media people are not aware, systems are not aware what to do. Here, the ministers are not aware. Nobody is aware what to do, to be very frank. But everybody is going with the flow. Our responsibility is to address the problem of infodemic, mitigate the threats being posed by infodemics. That is what we are doing. We are communicating well. We are coordinating with the doctors. We are healthcare thought leaders. We are reaching out to the media, public, and telling them what is right for them, what is correct, how to handle situations. Absolutely, what is happening, it is not about just the COVID. When it comes to the chronic disease patients also, they were equally clueless, because the government said, comorbidity patients are very prone. So here, it's not in healthcare. We just need not to manage one thing. There are variety of diseases, I would say, chronic diseases, where we had to communicate, not in just COVID. So we were coordinating with all kind of patients, all kind of diseases, all kind of media, communicating them, educating them, giving them right information, addressing the problem of infodemic. So these were the challenges that we were managing.
Thanks, Nikki. Regal, we talked about the trust factor between parents and the educators. What kind of communication is required to develop that kind of trust? And because this is going to be an ongoing issue, it's not that you do a 3-month campaign.
Yeah. So trust is critical in education. And if parents have the trust that this teacher or this school is best for my child to impart education, everything starts from there. And looking at PR, there have been many brands who have come to us in the last 3 months with the same proposition or the same challenge, I would say. So we have suggested them a change in strategy and messaging. So when the COVID started, so it was all, for everybody, it was a challenge, whether it was parents, teachers, or even schools, to impart education. But slowly, with online classes, with edtech offerings, the content going free, and the kind of PR which we have done, both, on digital platform and even, digital platform and simultaneously online PR also, which we have done, and how we push this message of social impact. it was about rather than getting subscriber base, these edtech brands were also aware that this is the time to showcase that they are there for students, for parents, and for the country to continue education. So that approach we have taken, the shift in the strategy is definitely has also helped these brands again to get 100% growth, 80% growth in terms of the subscriber base. Another thing I would say, that with this COVID scenario, there has been a mind shift in parents, which literally would have taken some time. I would say. So now, what parents are doing, that they are more open to teaching their students at home. And everybody knows that this will go on for a long time. So there has been acceptance altogether in this form of education.
Thank you, Regal. I'd like to go over to Hemant. I don't know whether he's there online. There.
I'm there.
You're,
Yeah.
you're back. The camera went off for a while, so I wasn't sure. So, Hemant, my question is that never has there been a bigger opportunity to improve financial literacy, because digital financial literacy. And what do you see any of your clients focusing on that, or it right now it is just managing the current crisis and focusing on delivering to existing customers, or what other trends do you really see?
So here during the last 3 months, there is a lot of issues and crisis related communications coming up from various institutions. So from a bank's point of view, for example, if you see all across the country, managing their the customers, managing their employees, and setting the right messages across, that was a major trend that we saw. Another very interesting thing that we saw, I mean, we did, during this last 3 months, we handled one merger pertaining to a public sector bank with another public sector bank, the announcement which was done by Honorable Finance Minister last year. So reaching out to audiences all across the country, the bank is situated in one particular city in India, and reaching out to other cities, other audiences, the customers of both the banks, the employees of both the banks. We did a lot of conferences online. Now, this is a new trend which we had never seen earlier. Online conferences, audio conferences, video conferences. The MD is sitting in Chennai, with that she's talking to Calcutta media or Bangalore, or some other client from Bombay is talking to Bangalore media and Pune. So video conferences. Earlier, physically we had to go all across the country to do these messages or do this. Now everyone is coming online, and even the regional media is coming online. So that is a major trend, and it's a good trend for the PR industry that we've seen. Overall, if you see, issues and crises were very important during this. So we got a lot of special projects around that. There were major announcements pertaining to COVID-related products that came up very well. So these 2 or 3 trends that we saw in the last 3 months.
Thank you, Hemant. Shabir, I have a question about the influencer, strategy. There are all kinds of views that influencer strategy, as we know it, is dead, or the other view that influencer strategy has never been more important.
So
I remember,
go ahead.
So I remember in one of your articles to PR Moment, you talked about how Apple and Oppo have very different, influencer strategies and difference between A-grade stars and TV stars. So are those days over of having that kind of mass strategy for influencers?
I think, So during the pandemic, what I have noticed is a lot of brands have stopped this for now. So I don't see any actor endorsing any sorts of mobile phones or posting a picture with a device asking people to go buy it, because it has stopped for now, because all these brands have halted these sorts of approach. Meanwhile, like we were speaking about the healthcare industry, or we speak about the education industry, they are booming. They are trying to make sure that they get the influencers on board for the right sort of approach. So just to give you an example, we are working with a very big, famous fashion and interior institute in Pune. So we have been working with them for the past 2.5 years. So everything that they would do pertaining to the workshops or the seminars or the classes used to be a physical workshop in their institute. But since now everything has come to a halt, So the 2020 to 2021, this 1 year of the academic that they are going to have is entirely going to be conducted on digital. They would not want the students to visit the institute anymore. And they have connected with Manish Malhotra, Ashley Lobo, and these fashion designers and some famous, you can say, individuals from the interior domain to come and do seminars and workshops through Zoom and all. So this is how they have changed the approach. Meanwhile, we are working with an entertainment segment where there's a dance institute who we're working with. So they had a different sort of approach. Now, if you see every dance institute or every entertainment segment, if you see an artist or anybody, they have started the trend of using a specific song or a specific music and doing a challenge for it. So what we did for them was we started a different approach where we thought of doing an Antakshari. So there were some 10, 15 different students and the alumni from the Dance Institute who connected together. There was a musician who was a part of it, and they would just do an Antakshari. So everybody has shot that in their own houses. So they were given a specific word or a specific song that they had to perform on. So they would sing first, and then they would play that song and start dancing on it. So we were breaking the monotony of what people were doing on digital, of doing the similar dance challenges, picking up a specific song that is trending and doing a performance on it. So we stopped that. Apart from that, every dance institute, if you notice right now, they've started those live seminars. They go live on Instagram. That's a trend now. So they all want to have a fixed time of 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening, where they want to do a live session they'll call up some artist or celebrity, and they would want to do a live session. We didn't want to have that approach for our client. So we changed the approach where the students who have passed out from the institute, who are now a part of big, who are working with, you can say, Puneet, he's a dancer from ABCD. He works with Remo D'Souza. So they have a big dance crew. So he's a part of that crew. So he works with Dance Plus 5. He works with all dance reality shows that you see on television right now. So he's a pass out from that institute. So we invited him to come and do a workshop. Shiraz Irani, there's a belly dancer who was very famous for India's Got Talent, and she recently was seen in the India's Best Dancer auditions. So she is also alumni of the institute. So we decided to get famous, known personalities, but from the same institute, to bring out the impact to the current students that, okay, your journey can reach up till here. So not bringing out any random celebrity or influencers on board who they would just idolize and they know they can't reach there. We wanted to bring in influencers who have started from the same position and they are somewhere right now. So this is how we are changing the approach.
So what you're saying, from the authenticity and relevance of the influencer has never been more important.
Right,
and
right.
Probably
right.
as micro as we can make it. So this has been a fascinating discussion. One final round of questions for all the panelists. Before we wind up, I'd like to go over to Nikki first. Nikki, what is 2 questions for you? What is the one trend that you feel will sustain for healthcare communication trend? And what is the one thing that you have learned personally from managing these last 3 months?
Sorry, Parul, I couldn't hear you at all. Could you please repeat the question? It was your voice was blank completely.
Yes, I'll definitely repeat my question. So, Nikki, my first question to you is that, what is the one trend that we should definitely watch out for? I think you can't hear me. It looks like you can't hear me. Can you hear me? You can't hear me. No.
Yes. Now it's better. Yes.
Okay. So what is the one, my question to you is, what is the one trend that we should watch out for in healthcare communication going forward, which no communicator in this sector can ignore? And personally, what have you learned from these last 3 months? How difficult or easy was it for you to cope with the changes in the sector?
Thanks, Parul. See, I initially also said our team and we have been into healthcare. We have been trained what we are doing right now. Only the intensity have changed, I would say, and the topics have changed. Earlier, we used to do common health days. What is happening? Regular malaria. I'm just telling you an example. So regular malaria, chikungunya, and all those stuff. But right now, the entire communication, what has changed right now, we are not making any monthly, quarterly, or 6 months plan. We are working on a short PR plans. We are creating short strategies for the client. We are creating weekly strategies, 10 days strategies, fortnightly strategies, depending on the developments, because you never know what is going to happen to the next minute or the next hour, what government is going to, announce, and what is happening. Keeping the particular subject and the trend in mind, I think crisis communication in healthcare right now, even for the other companies also, it is going to be a big trend, and that is what end up we are doing every day. Sometimes we are handling 4 to 5 crises in a day and 10 crises in a week, and earlier the intensity was less, now we are handling it. You never know what will happen next hour. Most of the crises are coming at 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, where you have to issue something, some statement, and you have to manage media. So these are the things that we are coping with. Certainly this sector has many opportunities, but full of challenges and the other things as well.
So, what kind of crises are these? Are these related to medicine, to patients,
These are
to
completely
services?
these are completely related to COVID crisis.
Okay.
Sometimes not getting bed, coordinating with the media, government, sometimes coming wrong. So multiple crises. These are unprecedented crises. Is can be come in any phase. It can happen. Very different crises. I can give you a couple of examples if you wish to. Like in one day we had crisis with 3 hospitals together. We are handling more than 20 hospitals across India, even more than that. So somebody is dying before, in front of the door, not getting bed. So these are the crises that we are facing.
So that is
Doctors
really, I
are
think,
coming, doctors are, the patient was not, the patient was asymptomatic, but once the surgery happened, it infected the whole nurses and the doctors. So we have to report the government. So many things are happening right now. And in pandemic crisis, you cannot issue statement. The media is reaching out to you. You cannot issue a statement also, but you have to coordinate with the media. So multiple
so
challenges. You have to coordinate with the government. You have to coordinate, do the internal communications of the hospital and the healthcare clients. So it's a completely different scenario altogether. It's a
I look forward to.
very sensitive thing. It's not like, if we have to aware public. It's a huge public awareness thing, and we have to make them aware. It's a very sensitive communication. It's not like any vanilla PR. We have to be very careful what we are talking about, because it is related to life and death.
So it is, and anything you say will immediately be at the top of the recall of people especially when it comes to things like patients, critical care, life and death care. I look forward to talking to you more about that offline because it's really fascinating what you said. Regal, what is the one thing that you have learned about the sector which perhaps surprised you in the last 60 days, which you plan to apply now in communication for education going forward?
Yeah, so Parul, one thing which not only me but the entire team has learned that the requirements of the clients are totally different. And we've seen at Value 360, we've seen at least 50% increase in inquiries from the education and edtech clients. So it's not only about servicing institutes which are offering live classes for NEET or JEE, or some which are providing courses for upskilling. Even for that matter, we also have interesting clients such as global companies who are based in UK and US, who are in the business of facilitating students getting admissions abroad. So it's a mix of everything, and to personalize that messaging, that strategy for every client is definitely the team has been doing from past few months. Apart from that, digital has clearly become the way in the last few months, the way COVID has hit all of us. And there has been a spike in terms of education clients for media visibility. And team is also using new mediums, which are webinars, podcasts, even large format video interviews for the founders, especially for our clients. Apart from this, we are also having focused group targeting PR strategy, which is if any client asks for investor related communications, then we are giving investor related in the edtech space only if they are, going for another round of funding. Then the second would be social impact, which is if they would want to amplify how they are offering free course material or free content for the students. That is, another kind of communications which we are doing. Apart from this, there are even edtech brands who are focusing on the government and that teacher, that collaboration bit. There are issues which are faced by teachers due to, the change in the medium. So according to the clients and their needs, we are focusing on their requirements, their messaging, and definitely, their strategy. And everything is done in a phased manner so that they get visibility. There is, amplification of the message. And at the end of the day, they also get sales number, which is, the increase in subscriber base. So clients like Topper, GradeUp, BrightTuty, Udacity, all of these, they have seen a surge in terms of the sales in the last 3 months due to, the PR strategy or the PR execution which the team has done.
Thank you, Regal. It's really great to hear, communication being talked in terms of business outcomes, which happens quite rarely. So over to Hemant for his point of view. Finance is something which is, the financial sector is possibly as important as life and death and healthcare. So if not, some would say more, if you look at the current unlockdown scenario. You, of course, have also been through the 2008 recession, which happened, you were a communicator at that point also. But this is at a totally different scale. So what is the learning for you? And like you said, you're even adding clients, and actually people are your clients are expanding their services. So what has been your?
Parul, I missed the last part you were talking about. 2008.
Yes. So you've been through the 2008 global recession also. Yeah. I think you were at Adfactors at that point, and Madan has often said that it was really a crisis where a big chunk of the business literally vanished overnight. But now you're at so given that experience that you had, and now, did it help you in any way to handle what's going on right now?
Yeah. So Parul, this in 2008 also, if you look at the entire company, there were a lot of clients which went away. But if you see financial sector per se, it was reasonably stable. Especially the large financial companies, the institutions, the banks, even when they face a crisis, they don't immediately stop the PR activities. So that is the thing. Only the mid-sized and the small, so the financial sector comprises of a lot of large institutions and large companies, mutual funds. So they are very, very stable. Even in 2008, this was financial the segment was reasonably stable. So I'll not say there was no downturn, but it was a limited downturn, and actually it stabilizes the entire company. So similarly, I mean, even today, if you see the large ones, the companies are continuing. So that one major, I mean, overall communication from the company, the BFSI sector companies towards their employees, towards their investors, towards their customers, they will continue as it is. The new trend which I saw in the last 3 months was the one which I told you about, the online conferences, which we had not, I mean, earlier when we do any, we call any journalist on the online space, they will not come. They want physical meetings. But this has changed that one thing. Second, a major trend which I saw, I was looking at the figures of the announcements that we do online, the news apps. The subscription of news apps I saw in last 75 days has gone up by 25%, and their viewership has gone up by almost 80 to 100%. So the channel of communication probably is changing. People have less focus on the print, more on the digital PR side. I mean, digital is again the huge space. One side is the paid media. I'm talking about the PR news, digital news part. So and use of news apps. So that is a new trend. I mean, even the millennials, even the older generation people have started using news apps and more number of times during the day. So the channel has changed. the mode of communication, the channel, audiences, the messages that we is being given from a mutual fund or from a insurance companies, that is the same. The structure of communication is the same. The channels, there is a lot of difference that we have seen in the last 75 days. A lot of new trends have come up.
Thank you, Hemant.
Yeah.
That's very, very insightful. I'm going to give the last word to Shabir now. Shabir, the medium is the message, is as the old, communication theory says. So Hemant raised a point that the message is not really changed; it's the structure. So
Structure
how
has
much
changed,
of
right?
influence does the structure have, and what kind of learning curve will it be for communicators to pick that up?
Okay, I think see, if we see when the lockdown started, Zoom was the app that did a lot of hype because everybody wanted to use Zoom for the meetings, the conferences, or any sort of communication that they wanted to have internally or otherwise. But I think within 20 or 25 days of the lockdown, the government figured out that this app is not secured. So any sort of communication that you do here can be altered or used for any sort of data mining or any sort of stuff. So it is not secure. But still, if you see, we Indians or anybody in that case is still preferring Zoom to be a platform to communicate because we think it is the easiest way to communicate and also a simplest way of anybody like Heman said that the MDs and people who belong to the old school method of a marketing approach or say a communication approach where they believe that a face-to-face communication makes more sense are now getting onto a virtual platform. So it's not easy for them to adapt these things. It is not easy for them to cope up with it. They're looking for platforms or the sort of applications that are more user friendly for them to understand and equip. This is how it has changed. Otherwise, also, if you see the social media platforms that we are working on right now, they have also started to change because the way people are trying to use it or make the right use of it. So, if you see, Instagram would give you a 24 hours live that would stay on your story. If you do a live session on Instagram, it would stay only on your story for 24 hours after that. It would disappear after that. And everybody was using that as a way to communicate or do a communication, having their audiences on board. Like on Zoom, we invite people. On Instagram, you already have your followers who will come and watch you live. So it would become really difficult where they were communicating about subjects that would matter and would help people to even read or understand in future. But 24 hours is a very short time. Nobody can go and figure it out or check it. If I want to check it after a month, I can't. So Instagram had a new update where they added an option of posting it as an IGTV. So if you do a live now on Instagram, you do a live for 1 hour, the maximum time is 1 hour. So after you're done with the live, it gives you an option of uploading it as an IGTV on your page. So stays on your profile now and anybody can see it later on because everybody is trying to use this as a medium to communicate and help people learn things. This has come also, Instagram is coming up with a new feature that is guides. So guides is going to be a new feature added in Instagram, which will work more like how LinkedIn Pulse works. So LinkedIn Pulse is a mini blogging portal where you can have your own sort of blogs being written. Similarly, Instagram Guides is going to be a platform because Instagram also has a limit of uploading images. If you want to upload a bunch of images together, it's maximum 10 images that you can upload at a time in form of carousel. So now, because that is again a limitation, if people want to start using Instagram as a platform for helping people to learn, this is a limitation that was coming. So they have added a new feature of guides, which is going to work more like a mini blog section where you can have n number of images being uploaded. And I think 50 to 100 plus images can be uploaded there. And you can have a mini, say 500 to 600 word blog sort of content going there. So, and you can have it as proper folders and episodes or titles. So it is segregated for people to figure out what is where according to their requirement. So this is how it has been changing. The trends have been changing. Facebook and YouTube already would monetize. So if you would upload a video that was purely your content, you could monetize out of it. This was not the case on Instagram. And people had started doing live sessions, started uploading their own content, their own video, their own stuff, but they could not monetize out of it. So now there's a new feature that is coming up in Instagram. These features, I think, they are in beta form right now. They are being tested right now by a few users. and this would roll out to everybody soon. So they would also help you now to monetize through your IGTV videos. So now they've connected the live sessions that you would do to IGTV, and now they have helped your IGTV to monetize. So suppose if I am an educational institute or an healthcare domain who wants to give out some information that is purely unique content, I can do a live session on Instagram with my set of audience who are following me, or I can invite a panelist to do a live session there instead of doing it on Zoom or any other portal. You do a live session, the live session goes up on your IGTV, and you can monetize out of it. So this is another way for brands to curate, to create new content and to earn out of it, to monetize out of it. So this is how digital is also adapting with the new trends that people are looking at, and how people are trying to how people are trying to use it. So they're just figuring out how users want to use it and how users want to make the right benefit out of it. Similarly, there are wars going on online. If you know, I don't know if you guys are aware about it. The YouTube TikTok war that is going up right now. So these are all ways where people want to come now and stay online and just communicate with each other. Meme pages are doing a lot right now, because meme pages help these TikTokers and YouTubers do a lot. Now, again, there was a hidden thing in this. I don't know how many of you know about it, because Carminati is more like a face for YouTube. So he is a face. He's a young guy. He's 2021. He has become a face of YouTube. And for YouTubers who look YouTube, these are the specific YouTubers that they follow. And when the TikTok users started to troll them, and he did a troll video, he had I think crossed all the records worldwide. He's an Indian YouTuber, and he had broken all the records with that one video within 24 hours. And because the video was not just a roasting video, but also involved TikTok as a brand in that video, TikTok had to get into this involvement, because this one video got the TikTok rating from 4.5 to 1.2 in 24 hours. So that was the impact of a YouTuber.
We are all living in a world which is very new. So
it's very easy for people. So because the Google reviews or the reviews that you get for your brand or your product matters a lot. A single review, a wrong review, can spoil your brand reputation online. So this was the simplest and the biggest example how you need to be safe, meantime being have the right sort of approach, so that you're not hurting anybody's sentiments anywhere.
Yeah, to add to Shabir, Parul, in EdTech also there are interesting mediums, which are emerging. So we've just recently boarded a client, which is a SaaS platform, and they are providing, a platform to experts to conduct their own course. And an ex-Miss India has earned close to 3 lakhs in the first few days only by giving grooming sessions, to the subscribers, which is also, again, sitting at home. So those kind of, interesting mediums are also emerging in EdTech.
Thank you for that insight. I think this has been an absolutely fascinating discussion. I was supposed to keep this to 25 minutes. We've gone double the amount of time, but I think it was worth it. Thank you, Regal, Shabir, Hemant, Nikki. Thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful discussion, and look forward to talking again. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.